Review with your host, Farrar Hutkins. Welcome back to NuWho Review. We are talking about episode 10 of season 8, In the Forest of the Night. I am Farrar, and I am back with my usual cohorts, Lewis.
Hello.
Alex.
Hi.
And occasional and frequently now recurring cohort, Paul.
Hola.
Season 8, Episode 10, In the Forest of the Night, written by Frank Cottrell Boyce and directed by Cherie Folkson. Lots of plants in this episode. I think they probably should have got some screen credit as well. Fred the plant. What did we think of this episode? I'll let Lewis go first.
Well, okay, this is another one of those disregard all scientific accuracy and suspend all disbelief if you want to enjoy this.
Yeah. It's a science fantasy episode.
Yeah, and I guess depending on what your theories are about the overall direction that things have been heading, at least it was fairly enjoyable. I didn't turn the TV off. No, it was better than that, but still very difficult to suspend all disbelief.
Alex?
I liked it. It was very, very much Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe feeling, and they even say it at one of the parts in the thing about fairy tales,
right,
and stuff. And so, and they even, with Maeve running through the forest wearing a little red coat or cape or whatever she had. I mean, it was very, very fairy tale. So I thought it was very cute little kid doctor show, I guess.
Paul?
I enjoyed it. I think that part of it was a vehicle to give Clara's boyfriend the opportunity to show his heroic side yet again. So he got to save the day at least for at least one scene. So we got to see a little more of that. We got to see the doctors take a step back with that regards.
Yeah, I thought this episode was a pretty good one. It was light on fear, even though it was another one of those the entire world is at stake episodes.
Yeah, but it was a puzzle. It wasn't an antagonist.
Yeah, it was
very strange.
There wasn't a baddie,
not
so
at all.
much.
It was a puzzle.
And I kind of liked the fact that they used the puzzle to have an episode that was maybe not as fast-paced as others and allowed us to see the development of Clara and Danny's relationship on screen, whereas in a lot of the other episodes where there's a lot of action taking place, it's spoken or implied that time has passed and they've grown closer. It was nice to see the dynamic between the two, them working together, taking care of kids, and her not just telling the doctor that Danny was a great guy. We actually got to see it. We got to see how much he cared. And I thought that was a nice touch. We got to see more of Danny in this episode. He wasn't just on the phone waiting for her to show up.
It was also an opportunity for the doctor to redeem himself in a way from Kill the Moon, because he parroted back what Clara had said. He breathes their air, so he got to actually, instead of just swanning off and leaving when Clara basically said, "This is not your world," he actually showed them by him actually figuring out what was actually going on and taking them all literally under his wing and bringing them into the TARDIS, and he was able to kind of redeem himself in that way.
Yeah, we came right back. She said, "It's not your world," and he actually said, "No, it is."
Yep.
And he proved it. He's been interfering in Earth's affairs for a long time on behalf of good, we assume, at least what he considers to be good. Occasionally, he proves wrong, but I think he softened a bit in this episode. I think we saw a doctor who does care.
He had sort of come to that conclusion in the previous episode, about his role as a protector.
That's true, but this time he did it. He didn't just say it.
Right.
The big speech, "I am protector of this planet," that's one thing, but now he takes ownership of it. He says, "This is my planet too," which is kind of a different thing. I think it implies that he feels more of a connection to it emotionally than just, "I'm just protecting these people because they can't protect themselves."
This is my world too. I walk your earth, I breathe your air.
And on behalf of this world, you're very welcome. Now go. Save the next one.
There were a few things, though, that don't make sense. And I won't take credit for this. My friend Martin Childs, he pointed out something very obvious. Where was the rest of the population?
Right.
Yeah. That's always a thing in Doctor Who. You know, when they say there's an invasion and you see 4 Daleks.
Well,
Right.
Or
yeah.
everybody is evacuating the city and you see a group of like 60 people.
Well, didn't we have news feeds like in the very beginning of the episode? Weren't there like news like, you know, weren't there people in those news feeds? Or was it just the news anchors? Like, I don't really remember. So
They were just delivering the news.
Okay.
But I think
they did tell people to stay at home. I don't think
Right.
people would
You know, there's
actually-
always that implication.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Stay in your homes.
But no
It'll
one-
drive the budget up if
but
you go
for-
outside.
But for the Power of 3, no one stayed in there. No one listened when they said, "Don't bring these in your home," and people brought them. You know, brought the cubes in their homes anyway. So
yeah, this time we had a lot
Yeah.
more obedient Londoners.
yeah. So
Which doesn't seem very English, at least as far as I can tell. Most of the people I know would say, "Wow, the government wants me to stay in.
I mean,
I'm going to go out anyway.
if
I
I
need
saw a bunch of
pint."
trees outside randomly growing, I think I'd walk outside and want to take a bunch of selfies, like the kids did
Yeah.
for the lion, which you didn't see the lion at all. But
Yeah, there would be tons of people out there with their phones taking
Right.
pictures with the plants that sprouted up overnight, you know.
Yeah, the budget for extras, background players, was spent on the inordinate amount of faux plants, I guess.
Yeah, they had a huge foliage budget in this episode. Lots of flora, not so much fauna.
That's true. There was a couple of animals.
Yeah. A couple of animals, and if you've dealt with animals or if you've watched a lot of nature videos, the wolf chasing scene was a bit of a disappointment because they dubbed in all the right sounds, but the body language was totally wrong.
Yeah.
They were not chasing. They had video of wolves that were walking through the woods, and it worked, but they were definitely not chasing. The fire in the eyes wasn't there. The teeth weren't bared.
It could have been worse.
The tails were back.
Could have been CG.
Could have been yes.
and
Fair
bigger, and it could have been bigger. I mean, they could have been bigger ones.
True. Or they could have tried something completely outlandish, like throwing a CG bear in there and trying to have people standing in front of a shadow that's not existing.
Yeah.
I think this episode worked pretty well, though. I didn't really have that many complaints. Again, like you said, the science was pretty weak. But when it comes to figuring out things like how long it would take a solar flare to actually hit Earth, movies and television just say, it's not going to work if we do it realistically because it kills the drama. So I've learned to just suspend my disbelief when it comes to
there's
stuff like
layers
that.
on layers of problems, if you want to get into it. I mean, after all, anything that produces more oxygen is going to actually invite more flame than repel flame.
That was the first thing that I noticed about when they were, and it was almost as if Clara knew that it wasn't going to work because they said, "We're about to set fire to this," and she said, "We're looking for a young girl. She's lost." And they said, "We're about to set fire to it." She didn't say anything. That was her entire. She just said it once, And I thought, holy crap! If it was one of my students. And they said, "No, we're about to set fire to it," I would have said, "No!" Yeah, I would have gone crazy. I would have tried to grab it out of their hands or something. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a 6 or 7 year old kid out there. You can't do this.
Yeah, that seemed kind of loony.
She stopped short of doing that. She mentioned it, and then they tried it, and it didn't work. And so I thought, I wonder if she knew.
Well,
Was Missy telling her all the time that it wasn't going to work?
I don't think it was that. I don't know if y'all noticed in this episode, Clara wasn't really concerned about the kids. Danny was. He's like, Danny kept
Right.
reminding her, okay, we need to do the kids. Clara was more concerned about she was more concerned about the adventure with the doctor and the trees being here than she was about her charges. And which is really strange because Clara used to always be about the kids, and it just seems like this is more her turning. I don't know what y'all talked about in the last episode, but it just seems like it's more her turning and becoming, like, I think the doctor has become a bad influence on Clara because she doesn't
Right.
seem more like she's the carer anymore. She seems more like she's turning into him
Yeah,
because she's more interested in the adventure and the intrigue of what's going on. This is cool, and not about being, not about the one who's caring, which is, okay, like you said, the 7-year-old, like, no, you shouldn't do that. We have to find this kid,
Yeah, right.
So I think if Danny was there, Danny probably would have been like, oh, no, you're not setting this on fire. Because that was the whole point. I mean, with Danny in the whole episode, he kept saying the kids, the kids, the kids.
We did talk a little bit about that last week, about how Clara is becoming the doctor. my theory was that that's going to be why she has to go, because she's going to end up becoming too much like him. Whatever her last episode is, and we don't know which one it is yet, but I think it's probably going to culminate in one of those things where he realizes that he has changed her and not for the better, and he has to undo that, wipe her memory and send her home so that she can have a normal life and enjoy being human with Danny, who's very human, and the Doctor is not rubbing off on him at all.
Yeah.
That's just my theory, though.
Do we feel that Danny's reaction was enough of a reaction, or did we assume that he just realized the whole time that she was lying to him? I mean, he goes and he sees the papers, he sees the current date, and they have they touch base on it a little bit, but I don't know that he really overreacted or reacted enough.
There was a lot of underreaction in this story, I thought, by all the actors.
Yeah.
The kids weren't freaked out as much as they perhaps should have been with the lion. The Doctor seemed a little toned down. Clara wasn't quite as panicked. Danny didn't seem as excited or excitable, maybe, or enraged.
Yeah, like nobody at any level was really that concerned about the implications of the outcome of the event at all, like the entire planet being destroyed.
Right.
The relationship, fractured, splintering.
The kids kind of say it themselves when they walk into the TARDIS, and the Doctor's like, no one's going to say it's bigger than this. So they're like, well, the trees grew overnight. We're not really surprised. Nothing really surprises us anymore. So maybe that was kind of...
Yeah, it's a metaphor for the
acting skills. I don't know.
Well, maybe that was something that the director was trying to do intentionally, that they were trying to lessen the emotional roller coaster of this episode. And
everybody was pragmatic.
I have to wonder why. Did they do that because there was so much detail involved with the sister disappearing and the voices, and there were all these little things that weren't necessarily spelled out for the audience? Maybe they tried to balance between action and emotional involvement. I don't know. But overall, I think it worked. There were some strange moments, like you said, where the reactions weren't quite spot on, but I've noticed that before, and I think it probably comes down to shooting schedule.
Well, it's also her, apparently the director, it was her first Doctor Who, so maybe she just was a little out of her depth. I don't know.
Well, maybe she'll grow into it.
Maybe.
Doctor Who does tend to give people a second and third chance.
Yeah.
When it comes to
I'm
writers
sure
and
we'll be
directors.
seeing repeats.
I do like the way that the Doctor basically was chastising humanity for trying to medicate anything or anyone that is perceived as being different.
That was interesting.
I did like that.
I really like that. It's like, so someone here can actually communicate, or is hearing, has some kind of a psychic ability, and you want to immediately make them
that was a nice
normal.
revisit from Doctor and Vincent.
Yep,
Vincent
definitely
and the
was.
Doctor.
Yeah, but it wasn't quite preachy. I was waiting for it to go there. When he started talking about that, I thought, "Ooh, we're getting close to the border." But they didn't go there.
Right.
It was just enough.
I thought it was really well done. That was one of the things that I thought was really well done about this episode. They could have gone on about pollution and they could have gone on about medication, but they didn't get really preachy with it. I thought they struck a good balance there. It kept it in character.
Right.
If they had gone on a little bit too much about it, it would have become, okay, the Doctor's not saying this. Whoever wrote this episode is saying this. I've seen that before in Doctor Who. It has got preachy at times. Not in the new series that much, but certainly in the classic series.
Well, they had a lot more time to fill.
That's true.
They've got to be more efficient these days, and you got to get in all the action.
This is a massive solar flare headed for Earth, like the one that destroyed the Bank of Carabraxos. I've got an entire TARDIS, and I didn't notice this, but she knew. How?
Yeah, this episode, speaking of that, almost felt like it could have been a two-parter.
Could have been if they had bothered to go into more detail about anything.
Like with the voices, the sister missing.
Right.
Yeah.
The sister missing was so incidental that I almost missed it at the very end.
Yeah, it was very random.
I went, wait, who's that? Oh, that's right. They mentioned that one line at the very beginning. I almost forgot 40 minutes ago.
Well, they mentioned that one line, and the mom mentions it a couple of times too when she's freaking out trying to find Maeve. She mentions it.
Yeah, what did we think about the mom?
That was just weird.
Well, I thought there would have been more of them. There was a mom.
Yeah, there was-
looking
Yeah.
for one child. There were many children.
I thought the
that were
school,
missing.
like, I don't know why we didn't have a scene at the school trying to get in touch with them because they were supposed to be back at the
Yeah.
school. Like, I was expecting us to see the school.
Right. And I was
And we
waiting
did-
for all their cell phones to start ringing or texting, because I don't know how it is in the UK, but for better or for worse, pretty much every kid over the age of 6 has a phone or some way that their parents can reach them
Or maybe
now.
Danny, when he found out that Claire actually didn't call anybody, maybe he turned around and called somebody because he was the more responsible one. So maybe
Right.
that was the whole point. We're just supposed to assume he called all the parents
Yeah.
and told them not to worry. I mean, that's the only thing. Even though we didn't see it, but
Yeah, we didn't see it, but I guess we're supposed to assume that somebody has got in touch with the authorities and the school and told them that, no, it's okay. We were on a camping trip and we're still here. The overnight museum trip, which is not something they did when I was a kid. I feel kind of cheated. It's become a thing that they do now. You do an overnight trip to the museum and you get to be there all day. It's
Is
pretty
that
cool.
an English thing?
No, they do it here too.
yeah, they
okay.
do it here.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the families and everyone knew they were okay when they actually literally broadcast to everyone, "Don't burn the trees."
Yeah, and they had plenty of time to write that little speech, too, which I thought was kind of sad that we didn't see the process of the kids writing the speech, because anybody who's ever seen a whole group of school children working on a group project, it's tremendously entertaining.
Yes.
And I felt kind of cheated out of that scene because they just went straight to...
No, there would have been a lot of good one-liners.
yeah,
I think
they went straight to the finished product.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
You were always showing me amazing things. Well, I, Doctor, have finally got something amazing to show you.
It was kind of an episode that you probably could have missed. I don't think there's
It wasn't really an arc episode.
No, it wasn't really a character arc episode, but they did tie it back to previous episodes with, like Paul mentioned, "This Is My Planet 2" thing. So I think they did a
Yeah, it
pretty
was a
good
bit
job
of a
with that.
companion piece to Kill the Moon.
Right. Almost like we were looking at an extended trilogy of like 4 episodes mid-season where we see the transformation of Clara's relationship and the Doctor's softening a bit.
Incidentally, the writer of this was his first Doctor Who outing. And
Wow, so first-time director, first-time writer.
Yeah. And this fellow has been writing a lot of sequels to Ian Fleming's Chitty Chitty Bang Bang series.
Okay. I didn't know it was a series.
Apparently it is now.
Wow. Well, good job, Frank Cottrell Boyce. Very, very good first outing for Doctor Who, I think. And a good job to Cherie Folkson as well.
And this is an interesting aside, but apparently this writer also wrote the 2012 Summer Olympics opening ceremony, which, if you recall, had a spot in it for Tennant.
Oh, really?
Remember?
No, I don't, but okay. Wow.
You remember that?
Nope.
It was cut out of American TV broadcast.
Well, then how could I remember it?
Well, as soon as you heard the TARDIS materialization noise, they cut away to a commercial.
Yeah. I remember the sound, but I
Can
don't.
you find that on
I never
YouTube?
saw
I'm gonna go
Tenet.
look for that.
Yeah, it is. I think it is on YouTube.
Okay, I'm gonna go look for that.
You know, they trotted out the big James Bond section, remember?
Right.
That was the centerpiece. But there
Yeah.
was a Doctor Who section in there, too. And we were all cheated out of it here in the States.
Wow, fantastic.
Just like Christopher Eccleston would say.
Haha.
London has just been taken over by a gigantic forest. Who do you want to talk to, Monty Don?
I want to do my job, which is looking after these kids.
Oh, really? How many kids?
What?
You see, the question is, how did it get here? Can a forest grow overnight, or have we been asleep for years like Sleeping Beauty?
No, the question is, how are we going to get these kids home?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, that is the big question.
So I mentioned this earlier when I said this episode was really fairy tale. Have you noticed that a lot of the episodes just seem a little bit more fairy tale this season?
Yeah.
Like with Sherwood Forest, and then even with the is it the silent? What was the scary one? The monster on the bed. I don't know.
Listen.
What was
Listen,
it?
thank you. I was like,
Yeah.
They've
Listen.
all had
they
a
all
grim
seem-
fairy tale.
Yeah, they all have
Fairy
very
tale aspect
I
about
just-
them, yes.
Are we going somewhere with that for the next episode?
I'm
just
very
curious.
suspicious.
Yes.
Like, I
Well-
mean, is it all gonna? Are they trying to tell us that it's all a story? Like,
I think they've decided that there's only so far you can go with science fiction. If you make it more science fantasy, to where something is set in the future or in the past, but it's really about human dynamics and relationships and choices and morality, then it becomes a lot more interesting and the writers can be a lot more flexible.
Before the season was broadcast, they did say, actually rather bluntly, that it was going to have a dark fairy tale feel to it. That's
So
what
your
the
point about the
producers
Brothers
said.
Grimm was
Yeah.
a good one.
okay.
very prescient.
Yeah, and I guess very hip this year. You know, we've got a couple of American dark fairy tale series.
Yeah, it comes and goes. Just like vampires and zombies. They fall in and out of fashion. And now we've got dark fairy tales.
We are not going to forget an overnight forest.
You forgot the last time. You remembered the fear, and you put it into fairy stories. It's a human superpower, forgetting.
Okay, what do we think happens next?
I don't know. We'll have to wait till next week.
Yeah, I don't really remember the trailer.
I think Clara is Missy. That's what I thought.
Okay.
Because she's evil and she's like, I believe the trailer was her like fussing at the doctor. And I just was like, okay, what's going on here? So that was the impression I got, that I thought she was actually like bringing back the nest duplicates, like the things that grow. I thought maybe she was like a hologram, or she was like a body double or something.
I had a similar
or she was
thought
Missy. That's what I
because
thought.
the BBC actually released, in one of their publicity photos, they released a photo with the Doctor and Missy and a Cyberman. And so I was thinking, okay, so Clara was a Dalek that didn't know that she was a Dalek before. Is she now a Cyberman that doesn't know it's a Cyberman? With some sort of like excellent camouflage on, or some sort of perception filter that the Doctor sees Clara, but it's actually a Cyberman? I don't know. It would be hard to mask that walk, though.
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure, it's just more foreshadowing of cyborgs. It's all cyborgs this season, isn't it?
And we didn't have any cyborgs in this episode, did we?
True.
Yeah.
Nope.
So that theory was the theory that we had a cyborg in every episode proved
Unless they
to be
deleted
wrong.
it like they did in
Haha.
Sherwood.
Oh, that's true.
That's true. It could have been in one of the scenes that we never saw.
Yeah, because I mean, in Sherwood they deleted the sheriff being the robot. So
That
there
was
could be something.
that was to
I
be
didn't-
sensitive to the world events,
Right.
Yeah.
But we haven't
Right.
heard wind of any other scenes being deleted.
yeah.
They did leave just enough of it in there with his hands sticking out of the cauldron, his obviously not human hands.
Yeah.
So I think that was that was enough to get the point across. And this one, though, this one was a very human episode.
Yeah, really not concerned with the plot arc of the season at all.
No. So although you could miss it and not really miss much, I think it was still a pretty good episode. I would watch it again. Yeah.
I would watch it if I had time.
Which means
it
he's
always
not going
comes
to
to-
watch it.
It always comes down to time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Time and space.
Well, pretty soon it's going to be interesting to enumerate our favorite episodes of this season. I thought, as a whole, so far, the season actually has been really very watchable and not nearly as, say, prone to throw my shoe at the television screen as I have been in the last couple of seasons. So, there it is.
Last season was atrocious. Okay. I hated last season.
Yep.
Yeah, I almost gave up on the show after last season.
Oh, yeah.
And that's saying something because I've been watching it since I was 13 years old. All right, guys. Well, we will see you next week for possibly Cybermen.
Yeah, two-part ending. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's about time we had a two-parter. Excellent.
The beginning of the end is upon us.
All right, guys. Thanks.
NuWho Review was produced and hosted by Farrar Hudkins. The opening theme music was performed by Louis Dorman, and music performed by the Consortium of Genius. Email your questions or comments to whovoreview@gmail.com.